Welcome everybody to Home Ice with David Quinn. I'm Michelle Gingras alongside Steve Valiquette and Rangers head coach David Quinn. And guys, an exciting show today to get to as we discuss the latest news in the NHL's return to play plan. Also, Rangers center Mika Zibanejad will join the show from Sweden. And as always, Coach Quinn will answer your questions on Twitter. But Coach, it was announced last week that training camp is now officially set for July 10th. That's obviously assuming that medical and safety conditions allow. And although it's not official yet, there are also some rumors swirling that the Rangers could be headed to Vegas as one of the hub cities. So what is the biggest challenge now for you and your coaching staff as you just start to prepare for this next phase?
Yeah, we're just taking it step by step, Michelle. Obviously, since the format was announced and we knew we were going to play Carolina, we've been focusing on Carolina, but there's really no secrets in this game, in this day and age with video and all the prep work you do during the regular season. So, maybe there's some trends that we've been looking for a little bit when we're breaking down our film with Carolina. But at the end of the day, as we've talked about before on the show, we've just got to continue to do the things we were doing to put ourselves in a position to get into the playoffs. And, we're just going to do them a little bit better, a little bit quicker, and a little bit harder when the playoffs start. So, obviously there's excitement right now because people are talking about training camp starting on the 10th and talking about potential sites where we're going to end up. But, at the end of the day, we just got to take it step by step. And we're just really working on trying to get our players over here in a safe manner and a timely manner. So when we do get going, we're ready to hit the ground running.
As you just mentioned, maybe there's no secrets in hockey. And I know you've had plenty of time to already be breaking down Carolina. So we thought it would be a good idea to highlight a different matchup that'll be taking place in this upcoming series. We want to try to do this every week. So this week, we want to focus on the Rangers power play versus Carolina's PK. The Rangers had a lot of success this season on the power play against Carolina, scoring 5 goals in 4 games. And what is just so impressive about that is that Carolina has a very solid penalty kill unit. So what did you notice about what was successful for your team?
Well, I thought we were opportunistic, one. I mean, it's been fun. Everybody talks an awful lot about the fact that we went 4-0 against them this year. And if you watch those games, I mean, they certainly should have won the first one. The second and third, we did get big leads and they did make comebacks. And I thought the fourth game, from start to finish, we probably played our best game against them. But we've gotten great goaltending against them. I think our power play, like I said, has been opportunistic against them. But that being said, our power play was opportunistic against a lot of teams. I think we're 7th in the league in the power play. So our power play has been pretty good all year. And, when you're able to put out the players that we are, you're going to have a chance to have a successful power play. So I don't know if it was so much that we found a hole in their penalty kill. I just think it was more that the fact that we executed properly and we were opportunistic.
Quinny, in my hockey circle, I've got a lot of head coach friends and assistant coaches that are good friends of mine. And I always tell them to watch the February 22nd game where Carolina played in Toronto and David Ayres came in as the Zamboni driver and how Carolina defended. I was so impressed with that performance. They've got a great young defense. Are there any things that you could maybe share with our viewers about how you can attack a really mobile defense as good as Carolina's?
Well, I think, if you're going to dump it in without a purpose, you're going to really give them a chance to get out of their end. And because they are good at, they got a real good mobile decor, Slavin and Hamilton and the rest of that group, Brady Shea now. I mean, they're mobile back there. And, we're going to have to be really, really efficient in managing the puck through the neutral zone. And if we do have to get it behind their D, it has to be with a purpose and it has to be with speed. So, our transition is going to be very, very important against them. We've got to do a really good job of going from defense to offense in a hurry, maybe catching them a little bit of sleep coming out of our end. But managing the puck through the neutral zone and not allowing them to slow us up, allowing them to slow us up is going to be key in order for us to establish some offensive zone time.
Coach, like we do each week, we like to look back at defining moments of the season. So 2 really interesting games that stood out to us this week. They both were Tony DeAngelo game-winning overtime goals. The first one was Max Zuccarello returning with the Wild in November. So obviously a very emotional game there. And then a little over a month later, another really intense game against the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto. I believe they scored with like a minute left in regulation to tie the game. And then the Rangers went on to win that one in overtime as well. So how critical for your team's young development and just confidence overall were those 2 games really before the new year even kicked off?
Yeah, that game in particular in Toronto really jumped out at us because, obviously it's a great environment to play in up in Toronto. They're as talented a team as there is in the league. They're very, very dangerous. To have, they score late, a little bit deflating. They tie it up. But for us to come back and win in overtime on the road, again, I think it was just another step for us in our growth. It was another step in our level of confidence. It was another step in us, being able to set ourselves up to have success the second half of the season. And, there's something about winning up in Toronto and Montreal and those original 6 cities, especially up in Canada, that just feels a little bit sweeter.
Quinn, I just want to ask you just your opinion on 3-on-3 overtime. Do you think it's overcoached? And one thing that Michelle and I were talking about on the MSG 150 last week, this might be a new rule for us, Michelle. It's similar to a backcourt violation in basketball, where maybe if the NHL instituted a rule where you can't bring it back over your own red line and regroup, would that be something that encourages maybe a little more offense for 3-on-3 overtime?
It certainly would cause more turnovers. But, there's really, maybe I'm missing the boat here, but there's really not a lot of coaching that goes on. There's some concepts, things you have to keep in mind, shooting wide and changes and, puck support and things of that nature. But you got to know who you're out there against too. I mean, if you're out there against high-end players offensively, you've got to make sure that you're pretty selective in your shooting and starting the breakout. Think of how many times you watch in a 3-on-3 overtime where you get a great scoring chance and all of a sudden they're going on a breakaway or a 2-on-1 the other way. And sometimes you'll force the ones that really bite you, the ones where you force offense and now they're going the other way. So, there has to be a little bit of give and take. You can't sacrifice offense because you're worried about defense sometimes. But, when you get in those 3-on-3 situations, it really is mano-a-mano hockey. And, it's a lot of fun to watch, and it's nerve-wracking for sure from a coaching standpoint.
Valley was talking about Carolina's defensemen earlier, and your defensemen have actually scored the most points in the NHL this year. And while that can be really exciting, it could also probably, I'd imagine, provide some anxiety for you, especially if they're giving up odd man rushes on the other end at some times during the season. So how have some of the more offensive defensemen on your team found that balance kind of as the season progressed?
I think you really saw it the second half of the season. It's why we were successful. We've always been able to score goals, but I thought early on we were sacrificing defense to create offense. And then I thought as the season evolved, we found that balancing act. And, it was actually, when we played up in Montreal the last time and ended up winning that game 5-2, during the game, they showed a stat where from January 7th up to that point, we were the 5th best defensive team in the league. So, and it was for an extended period of time. It wasn't just, and obviously our goaltending was good, but if you watched us, periodically, you watched us in November, then you watch us in January, then you watch us in March, you could see the growth structurally from a defensive standpoint. And, again, it was just the evolution of our team and guys trusting each other and guys, having faith in each other and, everybody doing their job. And, I think we did find that balance the second half of the season.
Yeah, I like to say it's a good problem to have everyone scoring. But I guess as a coach, is it different to navigate between, okay, look, guys, I know we're getting goals here, but your most important job should be what's the priority?
Yeah, I think,
it
is. No, I mean, selling defense isn't easy. I mean, guys, they want to score, and I want them to score. That's the one thing we continue to reiterate. I'm not telling you to defend so you don't score. You can do both. That's when they have the puck, you have to play defense. There's clarity on what you need. The problem with our game is when you're not, there's a lot of turnovers and there's a lot of situations where they're 50-50 pucks. And I think that's where we got a lot better. When we weren't sure who had possession, we took on defensive responsibility instead of cheating and thinking offense. And, we're good enough that we can play, a smart way and still be productive offensively. And I think that's kind of what our guys realize, that those 50-50 puck situations, are you one step on the wrong side of it or are you one step on the right side of it? And if you're one step on the right side of it, inevitably you're going to end up getting the puck. And I think that's what we did a much better job of as the season progressed.
All right, coming up, we'll be joined by one of the great Rangers goal scorers, Mika Zibanejad, will join the show when we return on Home Ice with David Quinn. Welcome back to Home Ice with David Quinn. I'm Michelle Gingras, and ever since Mika Zibanejad joined the Rangers as a 23-year-old in 2016, he's been on a steady ascent to NHL stardom. Coach Quinn takes a closer look today at the sometimes breathtaking skill set of his number one center. Inside the Rangers film room, orchestrated by Lenovo and CDW, people who get it.
Now you're going to see here why Mika's turned himself in one of the elite centers in the National Hockey League. We've talked about his all-around play, and you can see his support here in the defensive zone. One of the things you see about Mika is that he doesn't waste a lot of energy, and we do a real good job pressuring pucks. Buchnevich makes a good read. Mika reads off him, gets out, blocks a shot. He's got a great stick, and is patenting a move off a breakaway. It seems like it's impossible for those goalies to stop it.
In on Mrazek, he scores!
His forechecking ability. Kreider does a good job getting in as F1. Mika makes a great read. He's got a great stick, causes a turnover, and Capo gets a shot on goal and creates a scoring chance. So, again, one of the things that Mika does in so many areas is that he gets to people quickly without wasting a lot of energy. Here he is in the transition D. Does a great job coming back into our end. Puck goes to the corner. Puck changes sides. He supports the net front. Smitty does a good job getting on his man. Mika holds the net front here. He doesn't go chasing a guy behind the net. There's great communication between Lindgren and Mika. Mika allows Lindgren to come. Mika now gets out into his responsibility. Washington gets real high. Great job by Smitty with Ovechkin. And this is where Mika's at his best. He does a real good job supporting his teammates, jumps on Ovechkin, and away we go. If you're going to talk about Mika, everybody wants to talk about the 5 goals he scored against the Capitals, and he did it in so many different ways. You know, one of the things Mika does a really good job of, he takes a lot of ice without really moving, but he's really smart in finding open space. He beats Dillon. Great play by Capo taking the shot, and we make it 5-4 with 1:42 to go. Unfortunately, with Washington, I think they led the league in 6-on-5 goals. They end up tying it late. And then the best one of them all, the overtime goal, the 5th one of the night, that patented move we see on breakaways, and a huge, huge win against Washington, one of the best teams in the league. And I think the celebration says it all about how our team felt, not only about the win, but about Mika's incredible performance.
Back now with Steve Valiquette and Rangers coach David Quinn, and Mika's dynamic skill set obviously on full display there, coaching those 5 goals as you just showcased for us. And now we're lucky enough to actually have Mika joining us from Sweden. Mika, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
We talked about that 5-goal game. We've actually talked about it a lot on the show. You're the 3rd player in Rangers history to net 5 goals, and only the 2nd one in NHL history to do it in overtime. So different people remember different things from that night. What do you remember most about it, and what do you take from it moving forward?
I honestly don't remember too much about it. The most I remember is just watching the clips from it, and obviously I get tagged on social media and people saying they're watching that game again and whatnot. But I mean, everything went in. I feel like that's one of those nights where, you know, you have a few nights when you don't score and you feel like you should have scored 5, and then you have a few nights when you don't know how you scored 5 in this case. But it was a crazy game back and forth, and it was definitely a good feeling afterwards.
Coach, I know that we've talked about this return to play and phase 2, and then eventually, hopefully, phase 3 as well. So how excited are you at the prospect of having Mika back on the ice?
Very excited. Obviously, that was a special night for all of us. And the thing I remember most about that night was the timing of all his goals, especially the last 3. You know, he scores the goal to start the 3rd, in the very first shift to start the 3rd period, and then he scores with 1:40 to go to put us up 5-4, and then they tie it, and then obviously the overtime goal. So, I mean, obviously, you know, Mika's season has been well documented. He had a fabulous year. It was unfortunate he missed those 13 games, but you know, he's obviously a huge, huge piece of the puzzle here, and a driving force in our success, especially throughout the playoffs.
Yeah. So, Mika, you've had some downtime while you've been in Sweden. What have you been keeping busy with? And I guess what everyone probably wants to know that's watching is, when is the album dropping?
It hasn't been planned yet, but no, I've been trying to keep myself kind of busy with all different kind of sports, really. With the skating being a little bit more limited than usual, but it's been a lot of badminton, a lot of paddle tennis, and regular tennis, and just basically anything I can do. I played soccer with my girlfriend, and just trying to move every day, and just make sure that that I'm ready whenever this thing's gets started.
Yeah, Mika, I know what it feels like to have nights like that where everything went in. This one's for Quinny. Quinny, what has impressed you most about Mika, just seeing him grow over the last 2 years?
Well, he and I've actually talked about this, his growth away from the rink. And, he's always been a talented player. He's always been one of the best players, whatever level he's been at. But there is an adjustment to pro hockey, and to watch him grow away from the rink and, take on the responsibilities as a leader for us in so many ways. He's a great example for our younger players on what it's going to take to have success at this level. And really just, he's really turned into a three-zone player and an elite three-zone player. And, I've said this a lot about him and Artemi and all of our guys, really. I mean, we're very fortunate to have not only great players, but great people. And I think when you have, great players and they're great people, you get a much better chance to have success.
Mika, just along those same lines, we've obviously seen you take huge strides forward on the ice this year, but tell us a little bit more just about what Coach was alluding to, your growth off the ice. What do you attribute that to?
I think as we've been speaking about over the last 2 years, I think the off ice and living as a hockey player doesn't mean that you have to think hockey or watch hockey, or you don't have to work out 24 hours. But I think everything you do, you have some sort of thought about making sure you're in a good spot. And it took quite some time for me to figure out that part. I mean, I felt the growth on the ice step by step by each year, really. But I think it's off the ice and getting the support from my trainer back home, to my family, to my friends and my girlfriend, everything like that. I think that really helps when you have that support. And obviously when you do that and you see results from it, you get more confident. And I think the whole situation of since Quinny came in, I think playing more and getting a bigger responsibility, I think that kind of puts you up to it as well, that you have to do a little bit more. And I think that's what's been pushing me to get to this level, but I'm not happy yet.
Just quickly to follow up on that, you talk about, learning to push yourself to do a little bit more, how this stuff it takes time sometimes. So get your support system to get everything together. Do you now feel like, as somewhat of a veteran on this team, that's kind of the same kind of advice that you would give to some of these younger players that maybe are in similar situations to what you've been in the past?
Yeah, and I think I've been getting advice, and I've been getting help from older players and stuff. I think it's important to be able to listen, but also go through the things. I mean, go through the first, the 5-6 years or whatever it is before getting to this point. I think I went through a lot, and ultimately it was basically on me, and I think I had to figure that out, to go through that to really appreciate and to understand how important this is. And now it's nothing I have to think about. It's more of a habit, and I think that's something I can't really live without or think about not doing. It just happens, and I think that's I'm happy to come that far.
Mika, over the last 2 years, 10 of your goals have been scored with Chris Kreider in front, screening the goalie. And just want to know what that means to you, him signing that extension. One thing I really admire in your game is how you celebrate after those goals are scored. I love the fact you point to him and you're saying thank you in the celebration. It's really good for the team culture.
Yeah, I mean, Kreider has been a huge part for this team for a long time, and big help when I got here. He was my first line mate when I got to my first Rangers camp, and really been playing together for those 4 years, and a little bit on and off with some injuries here and there, and some shake up in the lineup. But he means incredibly much to this team, and obviously when he does the dirty work as well. everyone knows he's fast. He has a great shot, but he does the dirty work. And I mean, I don't know if he loves standing in front of the net, and I don't think I would. But at the same time, he does it, and I mean, he helps the team that way. So it's big ups to him.
I talked to Mark Ciaccio last year at one point. We were on the ice together, and we were talking about you just being able to finish the way that you do. To me, it seems like you're at impossible angles sometimes, and you just seamlessly get the puck high over the goalie. And sometimes you even choke down to do it. Is it something that you changed with your lie, length of stick, or your curve that maybe you could share with our viewers? Because there's a lot of kids watching, and they'd probably like some tips.
I think I've been the worst nightmare when it comes to sticks for Cass. With switching sticks every year, I think 3 times during the season, just trying to find that comfort in the stick. I think it's important. I think it's important where you don't feel like you have to put your hands in a certain way when you shoot or in a certain situation. I think I found the stick that I like now. Who knows? I might change it next year. But I think choking down a stick is more just for me to make sure I don't miss the puck. That's really the secret of it. I feel more comfortable with that, especially in tight. And that helps with the lie as well. I get my whole blade on the ice, and I don't know, just a lot of experience from mini sticks, I guess.
Hey, well, Mika, don't feel bad about being high maintenance. My nickname was high maintenance backup goalie. So don't worry too much.
All right. Thank you for that.
Mika, just to wrap this up, it's a 24-team tournament going forward. Your coach's message on this show has been, why not us? So how does that sound to you?
I mean, speaking to my friends and family and people that, ask me about this whole thing and what are our chances and everything, I've been saying the same thing. You've seen, especially when a situation like this happens, no one's been a part of it ever before. And you've seen at the start of seasons, teams go hot, and you have a hot goalie. Why not? And we just got to approach it game by game and trying to hit the ground running.
All right. Mika, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to having you back stateside, hopefully a little bit sooner than later.
Thank you so much. Take care, guys.
When we come back, it's your chance to get your questions answered as we head to Twitter when Home Ice with David Quinn returns. Welcome back, everybody. Michelle Gingras alongside Steve Valiquette and David Quinn. And like we do each week, it's time for Coach Quinn to answer your social media questions. So let's kick things off with @Zach4B. He wants to know, with such a long layoff between games, do you think it'll affect the rookies differently than the veterans?
I think that's the great unknown. I don't think anybody really knows how this layoff is going to affect rookies or veterans. And I think that's why everybody feels like they have a fighting chance when the playoffs start, all 24 teams, because we are in the world of the unknown. So obviously what guys have been doing from this point on and what's been going on over the last 2.5 months before training camp starts is going to go a long way in determining a player's success and the team's success. So, we feel pretty good about what our guys have been doing during this unique time, and certainly excited about getting training camp started.
It's funny, Quinny, I heard this one last week. Either you suffer the pain of discipline or you will suffer the pain of regret. I think that's going to apply to all the players in the NHL coming back.
Sure.
Mine here is from @Natalina Bree NYR. What's the one phrase that you think you're going to say the most in practice when you guys all resume?
Wow, there's a lot of things jumping in my head right now. I'm going to say faster. Do it again. Faster. It's funny in coaching. A lot of times a guy will come in and say, what can I do differently? And sometimes your answer is, you just got to do everything faster. I mean, it's so simplistic, but they want more direct and specific answers, but that is direct and specific. You got to do it faster. So I would imagine faster would be a word that I'm going to use an awful lot.
We'll get those T-shirts made, Quinny.
Yeah.
Valley's just selling everything today. He's trying to sell earlier. He's trying to sell shirts now.
I like it.
MG Wiseman wants to know, given all the time off, would you prefer some games versus Carolina be played on consecutive nights or every other night?
I don't really have a preference. I don't mind the back-to-backs. So, I mean, obviously we're under some time constraints as a league. I know we want to get all this in a short period of time, so I would imagine we're going to see some back-to-backs, but back-to-backs don't bother me. A lot of times we've played teams back-to-back where they've waited for us and we've had success. So I'm not worried about either situation.
Yeah, there's something to be said sometimes about when you're rolling, you could just keep going.
Right.
You don't always want that time off.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us. Thank you so much for everyone that was watching, and we'll see you guys right here next week when Home Ice with David Quinn returns.